Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Summers, and welcome to the audio edition of Mind, Body, Soul. I have another interesting guest again today talking about women's mental health. And her topic today is the magic of the mind body connection, how it is used to heal our lives. Welcome, Lisa Hall.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Gary.
So Lisa, you've got a very interesting past, as we had a discussion, and is wonderful to see you've come out on the other end so healthy. But so just to get started, can just give our listeners a bit of an idea of what they can expect to hear from you today.
Well, today I'm going to talk about the mind-body connection and how I used it when I was diagnosed with breast cancer back in 2014, and I refused chemotherapy.
So that's what was your decision not to take chemotherapy? Because I mean, obviously, we all know the devastating effects it has on your body, and you know. So what was the main reason for refusing that?
Well, Gary, the I guess the type of cancer that I had was really rare, and also was very aggressive. So there's very little medical stats on it, and I hired a doctor that specialized in difficult cases all over the world, and they had a team of doctors that weighed in, like different oncologists and radiologists, and different modalities, different universities, and they said that I should take chemo. And one doctor told me not to; he wouldn't do it. I had been working as a business analyst at the time, and the group that I worked with wanted to know what they could do to help me at that time. And I said, one thing I definitely don't want to be doing is Googling things on about cancer,
Yeah,
because keeping myself in that negative space was very dangerous, to my mental health, especially I was so triggered with fear at that time.
sure.
So they did a presentation for me, and it was very, very difficult. I told them they were the best analysts I ever worked with, and they came back with some dire news about what I was just diagnosed with. So this doctor came back and he said that one doctor, well, all the doctors think you should take chemo, but I don't. And they said I had 12% chance it was going to help me. And when I look back at my life, like how busy I was such a workaholic, and I just wasn't good to myself. And I was starting to feel that in my life. And so I took a look at the 12%, and I said, like, how do they know that 12% is not made up in things like, what support systems do I have at home? Am I numbing too much? Do I have healthy coping? What is this 12% made up of that would possibly help me, when I knew how dangerous chemo could be, and that it would affect, I guess, probably the rest of my life, that decision. And that 12% to me wasn't enough to kind of say, you need to do this. And another part of it, Gary, was that they didn't really give me much hope. So part of my decision was like, am I willing to put myself, my family, my body, like through chemotherapy when there's very little chance that I was going to live?
What?
So that kind of all came into play, I guess, when I decided that I wasn't going to do chemo.
So how are you today? I guess that's the next question. That was 8 years ago. You look great. You sound great. So
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I feel great, Gary. It's been 8 years, actually 8 years this month, and I am doing extremely well. My health is completely returned. I've had a couple of health scares since then, and enough that my doctor says that I have a horseshoe, where.
yeah, yeah.
So I've had a couple of health scares that ended up being nothing. But I completely transformed my life. I completely transformed the chemistry of my body, really, by taking as much of the stress out of it that I could.
And I guess people they go to their fallback when they hear that C word, it always
Yeah.
goes back to chemo. And,
Yes.
I always say to people, I'm not, I don't say you never consider it, but when someone tells you that there's nothing else they can do for you, that only means that there's nothing else they can do for you. They don't, they
Exactly.
don't know,
Exactly.
they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, that's for
Right. So,
sure.
so I always say to people, it may not be a good idea to put all your eggs into one basket because you may be overlooking a procedure or a person that could actually change your life. And obviously, you were able to do it with lifestyle changes, with diet changes,
I had
supplement.
intensive coaching, Gary, intensive coaching, because it was so scary, right? To get, I mean, we have fears over simple things like, can I pay this bill on Friday? But to get over that fear of cancer, and that fear is debilitating. It's changing your body chemistry. It reduces your immunity. It does so much. It torments your mind so much that your body actually has a harder time dealing and rejuvenating itself.
And even, even subconsciously, even when you go to sleep, you're still tossing and turning. And so your life becomes turned upside down for forever. So why did you take such a strong interest in mental health for women?
So after that experience, because I realized, like, through my cancer experience, that life was not going well for me, right? That was kind of like the final straw. Like, our bodies, our lives start telling us when things are off. We all know that. We all feel the tension and feel like things are not quite right, and can things be better?
Hmm.
I was just having a lot of struggles going on in my life. And so I guess I developed a big interest in mental health, specifically for women, because I was suffering from the same mental health issue that a lot of women are suffering from, and that's being way too hard on ourselves.
Is
And the perfectionism that comes from that, the workaholism that comes from that, the never feeling quite yourself, or not letting yourself be.
I I help people with hypnotherapy and cognitive behavior therapy, and I don't know what the percentage is of people, but I'd say it's well over 90%. Because people come to me for different reasons: smoking, weight loss, stress, sleep, a bunch of different reasons. But the overlying factor, when I say to people, uh, how do they feel about themselves? Most people have low self-esteem.
Oh yeah, people that it well, and that's the huge thing for women. It's not that particular issue is not so much for men, like being hard on themselves. Men are more like, I need to be strong, and kind of putting on that persona. But women, they are really tuned in to themselves. Kind of keeping themselves safe through perfectionism, for people pleasing, never taking care of themselves well enough. We're nurturers. We
Yeah,
give ourselves to everybody else, and we
yeah,
leave very little for ourselves.
yeah. That seems to be a common thread for the people that I talk to, and I guess that's one of the things with perfectionism is if you're perfect, then your self-esteem will come up, or if you say no, then people won't like you. So just get into. I guess we did kind of touch base on why you refused chemotherapy because 12%, or were there any other reasons besides that?
Yeah, no, but I would like to tell a little bit about the story of how that
Sure.
happened.
Absolutely. Yes. Go
how
back and tell us.
how I
Sure.
got to 2014,
Yes.
to a situation where I had to refuse chemo.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I also want to say up front that I don't kind of promote not taking chemo.
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
want to say that first, because I don't want people to think that you can just choose not to take chemo. And it is a big decision that mixes modern medicine with mind body work and counseling and all of that. to kind of make a decision about, whether you take chemo or not, because chemo is highly effective at many
Sure,
cancers.
absolutely, absolutely.
So before I started getting cancer, though, I was getting like small messages that things were off in my life. So like I was working too hard, I was taking care of everyone else, nothing was ever good enough, and I was always putting myself last. So my life was full of pressure, and a pressure that I thought was okay because everybody else around me was feeling that same pressure.
Hmm.
But it started escalating, and a few weeks actually before I was diagnosed, I had a moment where I felt like there was something running through my veins, like almost like a poison running through my veins. I could actually feel like it just felt like some kind of strange, it wasn't a force, I guess, but it was just something that I really noticed my blood.
Sure.
And a few weeks after that, I was at my niece's housewarming party, and I wasn't feeling right there. I just had 3 miscarriages, and I just wasn't feeling myself. We were trying to start trying to have a baby again, and I
Yeah.
was just feeling a lot of pressure of that whole situation. Am I ready? And all
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
And I left. I left the party, and I told my partner to stay at the party, and I just went home. And it was the first time in 42 years that I did a breast exam. I never, ever did it in my life.
Hmm.
So I came home, I had a bath, and I got in there, and that's when I found the lump. And my mom always used to say, my mom passed away last year, God love her. She used to always say it was the hand of God. And I am a very big believer in spirituality, and that something led me to find this lump after never ever doing a breast exam.
Did a light bulb go on in your head, that after 42 years you finally decided to do a breast exam? Was there something telling you that there was something wrong?
No, no, nothing was telling me that something was wrong. I think at that time that I was just very intuitive. I like something was. It was like almost like I was getting signs that like why would I do that night? It was two
Right.
o'clock in the morning. Like why would I get a bath at 2 o'clock in the morning and actually do that? But I have no idea what led that to me. I think it was something, a higher power type thing. My spirit, something was leading me
And,
to do
and that
that.
and that's what I meant by was something telling you, not from the outside,
Yeah.
but from the inside.
Oh
Your
yes.
internal guide or your subconscious mind was trying to tell you something, that there was something seriously wrong. So,
Yeah.
luckily you acted on it, because a lot of people dismiss their feelings, right? They kind of push them aside, and they don't want to rock the boat. And so I always say to people, use your feelings as your emotional guidance system. If you don't feel right, then there's something wrong, and you really need to act on that. So anyway, sorry, go ahead. So
Oh
continue.
yeah,
You
no, that's okay.
you 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 did your breast exam and you found a lump, and
Yeah.
that's when the journey started.
And that's when the journey started.
How long did that take?
It it was so aggressive. Like I went from being diagnosed to having surgery within 3 weeks.
Wow.
So yeah, it was quick. But I had been diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, I was told that the cancer spread throughout my body already.
And it hadn't, had it?
It hadn't. No, that was a mistake. But that kind of set me up to question things more
Yeah.
than I probably would have normally,
Yeah.
because it was like, okay, so this person that I hold great esteem and love for has mistaked something on my
Yeah.
chart,
Yeah.
and she is a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's who we're dealing with when we're dealing with, when we're talking to experts, we have to make sure that we take care of ourselves, we investigate ourselves, and we listen to our bodies and our minds about what's feeling good. If something doesn't feel right, you have every right to kind of investigate it and get a second opinion or do
Absolutely.
anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what's the message you want to get out to everybody? Because you're living proof that
Yes.
the
Yes.
power of the mind is pretty powerful.
It is, it is. And, it's the hardest part wasn't the cancer. The hardest part was the mental health piece after the cancer.
I
It
guess
was,
that fear of wondering, is it going to come back?
yeah, I never really had a whole lot of that because I trust in what I did and I trust that my body's healed. So I'm not a big worrier at all about my health. Thank
Oh,
God I don't have that to deal with.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But it was more, like I played a role in how my life played out. I lived a very stressful life, and going through this cancer experience and being able to get myself through this through the focused help that I had, that changed everything for me because I stopped creating disease in my body by being so stressed, and it started going to everything else in my life. Like everything else was improving. I started my own business. My relationships were better, and my relationship with myself and my life, my happiness, it affected every single thing. um, so I want people to know, like, that there is help. There's so much help out there that, like sometimes that also can be overwhelming, but there's a special help that can work for you, and people need to find what that is for them. And some people are better than others at it. Like, so I've been a big self-help addict all my life. But moving to the level of coaching I had was a different ballgame because it was so much focus. It was like, this got to happen. We're going to do this, whatever it takes, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So I want people to know, like, if they are struggling and they've tried other things, try other things. Keep going, keep looking,
yeah. I
right?
think, I think, I think you're yeah, certainly the message that I hear from you is to live your life in hope and possibility.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Y-
That's one of the biggest things. Like they studied in this book called Radical Remission, which kind of covers people who don't follow the normal, Western medical
Yeah,
model, really.
right.
And they say that so many people are do heal themselves, but nobody studies what those people are doing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's what this book focused on. And hope was one of the key things because for helping people like survive and feel good through the cancer experience.
yeah,
Like hope, we don't get a whole lot of hope, right? We don't get a whole lot of hope. Like a lot of it's just about stats, or this much percent did this, and they don't really explain, the modern medicine doesn't really explain the spiritual things that you can do
yeah, yeah,
and that kind of stuff. Like, what can you do? What is your role in this
yeah,
kind of thing? They don't handle that part. And that's the part that gives people hope, that they have some level of control, and they have lots.
yeah. There was a video I watched a number of years ago on placebo, and the doctor was diagnosing this guy, and he had throat cancer. And the doctor said, the mortality rate for throat cancer is really high. There's, most people who get it don't survive. So he sent the guy home, and sure enough, a month later, the guy passed away, and they went to autopsy. And when they did an autopsy on him, they found very little cancer in his esophageal cancer, is what he had. They found very little cancer in his esophagus. So what the doctor said was he died with cancer, but not from cancer. And he said the very fact that he told this guy that, the chances of you surviving this is pretty well nil. And what he had basically done was removed hope.
Yes.
Simply by
Yes.
stating that your chances are very low, he basically removed hope. So the guy didn't die from cancer, he died with cancer. So that kind of reinforces what you are saying, what a lot of the health professionals are saying is, if you believe there's an answer out there and you truly believe it, then you'll continue looking until you find it.
Yes. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So you talk about the difference between alternative versus complementary medicine. And do you want to explain What you mean by that? Explain to
Yeah,
people what the difference is.
yeah. Well, because sometimes people can think, well, I just, did, some kind of magical thing. And, I chose alternative medicine, which is choosing only alternatives, like
Right.
kind of turning away from the modern medical
R-
system and
Right.
doing things like taking a herb or, like doing different practices. But um, complementary medicine is basically taking everything that you have to your advantage. So that means using the best of modern medicine. And it means taking care of your body. It means taking care of your mind and your spirit. It's a holistic thing. And it's not totally relying on modern medicine either, because modern medicine is missing some things that
Absolutely.
they are, yeah, like, I mean, modern medicine now is getting more involved in an integrative model where they consider it's not just the physical body. It's not like just going to the garage and having somebody work on a physical thing like the
Right.
car.
Right.
It is an integrated system that science still hasn't even figured out. So there's lots of room there for, learning. Science is catching up with this. So I guess my message is to do whatever you can, but you have a huge role in the things that you do for stress management, taking care of yourself, healing some old wounds, that kind of thing, returns your body to an alignment, which
Uh,
makes it easier to heal.
Lisa, you have such a strong belief in the power to heal our minds and bodies and spirits. Um, were you like this before you were diagnosed with cancer, or did you develop this because you were diagnosed with cancer?
Um, I never really thought a whole lot of it, Gary, to be honest. Like I always had a strong belief. I grew up in a Catholic home,
Hmm.
and so I always had a strong belief in higher power, that kind of thing. But I didn't really have any health problems all growing up until I was an adult and got this. Um, but I always had a big interest in mental health, and
Sure.
I had a brother who was he was courted at birth, so he had some mental health challenges all of his life,
Hmm.
and it made it become part of our home. There was like a mental health component in our home all the time, because we had to try to deal with mental health as best we could as a family, and all families got mental health issues.
Well, yeah, well, yes, of course. I mean, we're human, aren't we?
Yes, yes.
But,
And people need to be, like be free with that. I
yeah,
had a hard time speaking up about it, really, because it is kind of private and family
yeah, yeah,
and different things like that. But if we want to address this, there's nothing to be embarrassed about or anything like that. The embarrassing part is if people just, give up and think that there's
yeah,
nothing that they can do when
yeah.
there's lots that they can do.
I guess for our listeners to understand, I don't have any special skills. You don't have any special skills. We're born with our mind and our body, and you are able to use that to your advantage. And I think that's what's most important for people to understand is that if one person can do something, anybody can do it.
Yes, and that's for sure. And Gary, through my work, I'm after seeing so many people like completely transform their lives. And it's not just physical. Like physical, yes, that's great if you can get your body, whatever, if you're having some
Yeah,
type of illness,
yeah.
um, and autoimmune illness and all that, that are, really increasing the numbers of that. You can do lots of things. People just don't realize it. We're not taught it.
Who are your clients? Who do you work with?
I work with women mostly. I do work with some men, but I tend to have a focus on women just because I'm a woman. I guess I know
Okay, sure.
I've been hard on myself my whole life, and I know how much damage it has done to my life and what my life looks like now after doing this work. And I feel great and I'm healthy. And a certain thing happened when I went through that experience, almost like I had that light bulb moment that would blow you off your feet.
Yeah, yeah,
That said, this is working. And after trying all kinds of different mental health, self-help type stuff all of my life, I knew this was working. And then that's when I was like, I want to work with women, because the issues I have are the issues that other women are having. And this is working after me doing my research, my due diligence, my training, and it can help. And to know that was the most miraculous kind of feeling, because I'd suffered from it for so long. It was like, what a
Yeah.
miracle.
Yeah. Do you, is it mostly with stress you work with women with?
Yeah, mostly women with stress.
Yeah.
They have high expectations of themselves, are really hard on themselves, or probably also hard on other people in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I mean, all of us have stress. You never get rid of the stress in your life. It's how you respond to it.
Exactly.
This is
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
magical potion to get rid
Right.
of your stress.
Right.
Um,
Well,
but
stress
when
is good in a
stress,
way, as
yeah,
long as you
yeah,
can, right? You need a little bit of stress. Otherwise, you'd walk off a cliff and figure everything was all right.
yeah, that's right. But it's the stress when it gets to a point that is affecting their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So when you're second guessing everything, and you're second guessing your relationships, your career, and
Yeah.
all that, and you
Yeah.
need some help,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Stepping outside your comfort zone and being uncomfortable is great as long as it's controlled. So, Lisa, we're almost out of time.
Okay.
Can you give our listeners a little bit of advice that they can use right now to handle any kind of adversity they might be dealing with right now?
Yeah, I certainly can. Um, so the best way by a long shot is to tune into yourself. Most people, spend very little time kind of, um, talking to themselves, soothing themselves, understanding themselves. Um, that's one of the key things. You kind of have to kind of come back to yourself, and learn to trust yourself and your higher power that you have. So a few tips that may be hard to put in practice at times, but it is true, and it's things that I've had to do in my life. And spend time doing things you love. Now, you would think that this is very easy, but in our busy world, sometimes we do not take any time to have fun, spend time on things that we love. So even if you have to schedule it to do it, it will actually make you a more effective person if you take time to relax and do things that you love. Now, this is the big one. And this one is one that's a little harder to implement. Reduce time you spend with people who don't make you feel good about yourself, and you know who they are.
It's funny because every time you say things, it twigs something. Whenever I say to somebody, would you rather be happy or sad? I've never ever had one person say I'd rather be sad. So stop doing the things that make you sad and
Yeah,
start doing the things that make you happy, including hanging around with people who bring you down.
yeah, exactly. And even if your family, like in my particular situation, we've had a lot of loss. Like our mom and dad have passed away in the past couple of years, and there's been a lot of caregiving, and caregiving is a hard role.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you have to go into a situation where you're going to feel like you're spending too much time, or you don't have your own life, or those type of things, that all of these things that keep you from doing what you want to do, you can start to get frustrated and
yeah,
all that.
yeah,
Like you can do different things, say like when I had to go into a situation where I felt like I was just worn out from doing it so much, that I used to prepare myself before I went, so that I would talk about the person that I was visiting, and say, oh yeah, you remember, we had a good time when we did that.
yeah.
Yeah, and like, and put more focus on the relationship, not the parameters going on right now, but the love of the relationship and all that. And I pre-pave myself before I go into hard relationships. And
Sure.
you do, even if they are your family, sometimes you do have to reduce spend time with them
What?
if
No,
they're negative and
no.
that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Right? Even though,
Absolutely.
like you wouldn't think that would be fear, and especially
Yeah.
if you're a people pleaser, that's difficult.
Sure.
But that
Yeah.
is an important thing to do. It doesn't mean you got to stop talking to them.
Absolutely.
Just some tools you can use to reduce the time and the impact on you.
Right.
And the last one is take 15 minutes a day for yourself. And this is something, Gary, I never used to do. And so like I get up in the morning, I have a certain routine I do for like about 5 minutes. I might do a little bit of reading, I might journal, just kind of connect with myself, because after a good night's sleep, you are fresh. You are fresh.
Hmm.
You're primed for a high positive energy day. And taking that time right then is a gift for yourself for the rest of the day
Hmm.
for it to go better. So, and learning some things like, a little bit of meditation, how do you connect to yourself, and, bring that focus back to yourself, because everything in your life comes from you, whether you blame other people or whatever, it all comes from you, and your contribution is important.
Yeah, you've got your own script to write, don't you?
Oh yes, the book's coming out for sure.
uh, Lisa, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today. You're certainly inspiring, and I'm sure that our listeners will certainly get a lot out of our talk. Thanks
Great.
again. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you, Gary. Much appreciated.
That's it for this week, everybody. I'll be back next week with another interesting guest. Bye bye for now.